What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube?
Sixers are in trouble. I need a top five.
Man, let's get into best of the week, man. What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube? Back for another episode of Charge It to the Game Sports Podcast. And as you can see, I'm joined by the very special Kelsey Nicole Nelson, Washington area, DMV area, TV and radio personality. Is going to be joining us. We're going to be talking a lot of things. We're going to be talking Washington football team, what's going on with them. Going to be chatting a little Wizards. Z has two big questions he wants to ask her about the state of the Washington franchise. What are all these rumors? And then we're just going to be overall just chopping it up with them. But before we get started, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Leave some positive comments about Kelsey. She's looking great today. No doubt, man. But Kelsey, thanks for joining the show. Yeah. Like I said, it's a blessing to have you on. How you doing? And say hello to our audience.
Of course. Well, thank you, fellas, so much for having me. Like, it's always good to be the female with all guys, because you guys know it's better when we have the talk together, right? You guys are in the barbershop when we have this talk too. I'm that female that's always kind of like, nope, wait, but you got that one wrong. But no, honestly, so excited to be here with you. I'm feeling fantastic, truly blessed to be here another day. You talked about Washington football team. Training camp kicks off this week. Look, football was my first love, so this is one of the best times of the year. We just had the finals. So look, like a lot is going on right now. So again, just excited to be here with you all today. Thanks for having me. You can never go wrong talking sports. So I know today's going to be fun.
At all. Thank you so much, man. So Big Z, man, I'm going to let you go ahead, man. I know you were chomping at the bit to ask you these questions, man. So Washington Wizards fans, Big Z is going to take care of you. You hear me? So Z, go ahead, man.
It's a big week. So it's draft week. Wizards issues. As everybody knows, Bradley Beal's player option is next year. He is the only NBA All-Star in the whole league who is not on a long-term contract. So every team is trying to make a trade for Bradley Beal. This week, rumors are rampant with the Golden State Warriors with their 2 first-round picks trying to make a big push for Beal, and the Lakers trying to make a big push for LA native Russell Westbrook. So what are your thoughts on what's going on with Washington? And are our Wizards about to be blown up and we're about to start all over again?
Look, when you're in Washington, you're used to chaos, whether it's in sports or politics, right? So I'm just used to something crazy happening. So I saw the Wizards news, and I think this happens all the time with Bradley Beal, right? I mean, he's a superstar player, an all-star level player, and I'll say he's a superstar here in D.C., right? He's that guy, especially since John Wall left. Like, we worship Bradley Beal. And honestly, I think Bradley Beal's a player who's needed more respect on his name because he's proven himself. I mean, in shooting, he's one of the best in the NBA right now currently, right? And, of course, we were excited to see Bradley Beal in the Olympics, and then of course we see what happened with COVID, so we got deprived of that. But looking at the Team USA basketball team, I don't know, maybe Bradley Beal. Right? We're just like, we need something else. But going back to the Bradley Beal trade rumors, look, I think Bradley has said he loves this team. He wants to be here, and he's always wanted it to be his team, but it was very hard for it to be his team when John Wall was here, i.e. DC loved John Wall, right? I mean, John Wall was for DC what Gilbert Arenas was when Gilbert Arenas was here. Then when we lost Agent Zero, and we won't go through that whole spiel, we embraced John Wall, right? And we remember that Dougie. I still remember being here when John Wall first came in. Iconic Dougie dropped on us here in DC. And then John Wall left, right? And that was still crazy. I mean, we were like, oh my God, John Wall's leaving. And then we get Russell Westbrook. But Bradley Beal has been that guy. I think he has a close relationship with Ted Leonsis, who of course is the owner of the team. I think he's going to mesh well in DC now with our new coach, which we're so excited about, Wes Unseld Jr.
Oh, yes.
You talk about, bringing someone back who I think needed to be here in DC. And so I think the trade rumors are always going to be there. But look, I think Brad likes being that guy. Yes, he could go to the Lakers or, wherever, just where he could be a guy, the Warriors. But I think Bradley Beal likes having his own team, right? Because with those teams, he's going to be an option. And of course, he'd be a good option. Look, if I'm playing pickup ball, Bradley Beal is my first pick. Like, that's my I just need to know where Bradley Beal is because he's a shooter. But I think I really don't see Brad going. I really don't. Again, I think he loves that this is his team. We saw he got paid by this team. And I think the Wizards are going to work to take care of him. I think we know Russell Westbrook was an experiment, right? We wanted to see how it worked. At first, it was rocky. We were a little bit scared in DC. Then all of a sudden, it started to work. It started to mesh. Now, rest in DC. who knows the future. But I think Bradley Beal, again, where else can he go where it's his team, where he feels that he's respected? His family's here. He meshes with the DC media well. And again, we've seen Bradley Beal grow up in DC. Like we've seen young Bradley Beal before the baby dreads or cornrows or whatever he's doing, to him now. And so I think it would just be weird. And if the Wizards blow it up, I mean, you still need at least one piece if you're going to blow up the team, right? And without, you take away Bradley Beal, I mean, who else are you going to kind of go to for your option? And look, the Wizards without Bradley Beal, it's a rough road. Like, it's a rough road ahead. And so, again, I think we're always used to these rumors. Before it was John Wall with these rumors. Now it's Bradley Beal with these rumors. It wouldn't be, again, DC if there weren't rumors going around. But so far, and what you would have to give to get Bradley Beal too, you just have to wonder what teams are willing to really give up. Because, again, Bradley Beal is that top player that, of course, everyone wants. He's that hot girl, popular girl in school that everyone wants, but she's only going to pick one. And usually she might stay with the one she has, right? Because she knows what she has with that one, right? So I just don't know if Bradley
You are funny, man.
I like to give real life analogies to people.
You got to, though, but it's the perfect one, though.
So, Wizards fans don't need to be on the ledge. Relax. Enjoy this week. Enjoy the draft week. And some things never change with Bradley Beal rumors every offseason.
Look, it's always somebody that wants him. But it's good. And I know it feels good to Bradley to be wanted. But again, this is his team, and he knew that. And I think Bradley Beal, again, is one that's just really grown and developed with this team. Again, I just don't see him leaving here because this is what he wanted the whole time. And since John Wall's out the picture, it's finally his team. Any piece that comes has to mesh with Bradley Beal. He is getting older. And of course, yes, every player wants a championship ring. But I really think Bradley's one of those players, kind of like the Giannis Antetokounmpo guy, that just really wants to grow and build and work with that team. Now, again, not saying we're going to get what Giannis has in a championship, but in terms of just staying with his team and being there and really wanting to grow and develop with those pieces, not rushing to just go to a quote unquote super team.
Right. Exactly.
Outstanding.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that quick analysis on that.
Yeah.
I know he was chomping at the bit to chime in on it, man. He's a huge Wizards fan. I'm telling you, I hate talking.
Wizards fans in DC. I don't see enough jerseys in DC. Like, I really don't see enough jerseys, and it doesn't matter how good or how bad they are. Like, it's hard to find real Wizards fans, especially since DC is like a transplant area where we have a lot of people from other places here. So I'm glad you are a Wizards fan. You're talking to a girl that was born and bred in this area, so also a Wizards fan. So we need more.
There you go. Milwaukee and Giannis gave us hope. Stick with your team, and a championship is possible.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for that. So before we get started with the whole Washington football team stuff, man, give us a little sort of kind of a brief synopsis. Where did you grow up? What are you doing? What shows are you on? It's so much I could talk about. I would rather you do it than me.
So, nobody wants to hear about me. No, but truly, honestly, thank you for having me. And look, I proudly rep the DMV area, born and bred in Montgomery County. So, shout out to Katie Ledecky. We're looking for you to represent us once again well at the Olympic Games. And also to Maryland, because Maryland got the USA their first gold medal. Again, great things come from Maryland, right? Kevin Durant will bounce back and represent Maryland well. But all that to say, again, just proud Montgomery County girl, went to University of Maryland, went to Georgetown. So truly your complete DMV package. And I've worked here pretty much my entire life, and I've absolutely loved it. And for me, it's been a dream come true to kind of cover the teams here, the teams that I grew up watching. I always say, I remember sitting in the nosebleed seats at Wizards game when it was my first Wizards game. And so to now be covering them, again, it just shows you that anything is possible, right? And then same thing for the Washington football team. Never thought that I'd be a reporter and working with them growing up here, right? Because it seems like intangible. Like, I always wanted it, but just to do that. And most of the time people tell you, if you want to work in sports, you have to go away and come back if you want to work in your hometown. But for me, luckily, I've been blessed to stay here and grow my career. And the one time I did leave was when I went to live in Charlotte when I worked with NASCAR, which was an incredible experience, right? But again, you guys see I'm back home, and I kind of got into sports. I come from a family of just sports athletes, and so my dad went to Grambling State University, so you can imagine, my first word I really think was Doug Williams. Just because my dad is literally, if you see a guy decked out in Grambling gear in black and gold, that's probably my dad. If he's in the DMV, he's rocking that or Ravens gear. Wanted to
Oh,
I
okay.
grew up in the sports world, and I loved it. I played a bunch of sports growing up: basketball, volleyball, soccer, pretty much everything. Like I tried my hand at, and I loved it. I loved the competition feel of it and aspect. In school, loved journalism, loved connecting with people, loved interviewing with people, and so it was kind of a natural fit. And again, for me, just did a bunch of internships and jobs, and of course, found my way to where I am today. And luckily, people still like me at my podcast. So luckily, I'm just trying to keep delivering content as much as I can. But again, it's a dream come true to work in sports. It's a lot of work, as you all know, but it's something that, I wouldn't trade for the world because I get to cover, sports and get paid for it, right? And so it doesn't get better than that, I feel like, if you are a sports fan. So I always say, I'm a daddy's girl living a woman's dream of working in the sports industry.
I just love hearing that. I just love hearing people's stories about how they got into sports and, like I said, just the backgrounds. And like you said, you're a DMV girl, like born and bred.
Proudly.
Just living your life. Man, so let's hop into this Washington football team.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we got a lot of fans listening today. They really take what you say personal, so they're waiting to hear what you have to say other than us, I
don't believe that. They like what y'all say too, but I try as best as I can. And look, this is what I love about the DC area. I always say, no matter what, this is Washington football team territory and country. Like, no matter how good or bad the team is, you will see burgundy and gold everywhere. And I absolutely love that about our fan base. They're diehards, right? We don't have the fair weather fans. They are there through thick and thin. And then I always say, like, the best time I've lived in DC was the RG3 era, because the way fans went crazy for RG3 was unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, literally, he was worshipped. Forget the president. We were on RG3. People loved RG3 that much. Of course, that injury hurt, but it was RG3 territory and country. But we love it, right? We just love our football team. So I'm excited to talk with y'all about the Washington football team. Still getting used to saying that, but yes, our Washington football team.
Beautiful. So let's start off with last season. So last season, what were their expectations for last season? With so much stuff going on, COVID. Ultimately did make the playoffs, and they lost to. I don't know if you watched the show or if you heard. I'm actually a Bucks fan.
Division champ, NFC East champ.
I'm born and raised DMV area.
Wait, so how did you get to Tampa? Tampa's not even close to us.
But the thing is, check this out. I'm not a bandwagon Bucks fan. Been a Bucks fan my whole entire life. I'm gonna try to find some photos and send them to you. But my dad, he did a decent job of trying to convert me. But when I started watching football, like I said, I came up when the Bucks was nice. They had Derrick Brooks, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, all of those guys. I was like, oh yeah. Once I saw Mike Allstott run the ball one time, I was like, oh, that's my team. But anyway,
I can't fight you for that reason. Look, that's now and just two icons and legends of the game that you named. So
Exactly. So but that's neither here or there. So tell us about last year. Like, what was the expectations? And like I said, they ended up playing the Bucks. They fared pretty well against them. But tell me your opinion of them last season.
Of course. So, I'll be honest. In DC, I'll tell you DC expectations and then the national expectations. So in DC, the expectation was Super Bowl. That's every year. The fans will tell you that the Washington football team is going to win a Super Bowl. Now, the national expectation was people thought we were just, we were in a ruckus, right? Let's be honest. We had the off the field stuff going on before the season started. We had a bunch of new rookies, can it work? The quarterback situation was still in air, right? Were people sold on Dwayne Haskins? There were so many different questions surrounding the football team, right? And again, and all the off the field stuff. It was just a lot, right? So people didn't know what to expect. And I really thought people didn't think much. I think they thought, okay, maybe hopefully Chase Young works out. We saw how our last top pick worked out. People were still asking questions, waiting for his development. And so lo and behold, I think the Washington football team broke all expectations. People were making fun of us, right? They have no name. They have no identity. They don't even know what they're doing. Ron Rivera just, they thought he just, inherited something that was too much for him to handle. And lo and behold, what Ron Rivera has done for this team and the coach that he's been, and the way that team, as you said, that Buccaneers game, Taylor Heineke comes out of nowhere, comes out of ODU and gives Brady shaking in his boots. Just think about that. Nobody at the beginning of the season would have said that the Washington football team would even be close to beating a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. But what they did was incredible. What Alex Smith had to go through that season and what he did for the team, the quarterback rotations, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins. It was so much. It was literally everything that you could put this team up against. They went through, right? They literally did. And then Chase Young, I think we all knew he was going to be good, but he was great. I mean, he was great. That D-line, let's be honest, in the DMV area, most of the time when you talked about defense, you had to go over to Baltimore, right? You're talking about the Ravens defense. But now we're talking about defense in Washington. I don't know if people thought our defense would even be that good, and it's exciting to hear. And so I think last year the expectations were, I think most people thought more of the same Washington football team, like, oh, the NFC East is pretty open, but they didn't have us winning, I don't think, the NFC East. I think, the whole Eagles thing with Carson Wentz, I've said this before, I think it was the Philadelphia Eagles division to lose. I really do. And of course, the whole thing with Carson Wentz last year, I mean, who could have predicted that, right? Like, who could have predicted what happened in Philly? And I think it's just going to be really interesting also for Philly this year. But all that to say, I think now people really see that the Washington football team can hopefully repeat as the NFC East Division champions. I think the one you're looking at is Dak Prescott, right, and seeing how he's able to come back and lead the Cowboys. But again, I think the Washington football team has made noise. And when you're talking about top defenses, this is what the Washington football team proved last year. Washington is in that conversation, right? And people are looking at Chase Young to be that same dominant force and that same dominant front line that opposing quarterbacks are probably going to have problems with. And so I think the Washington football team, again, just surpassed any expectation that anyone could have put on them. Again, in DC, the expectation was Super Bowl. So we didn't surpass that expectation. That's just because fans want the best for the team, and they say that every year. But what they did last year was truly incredible. I know, again, that the NFC East was like the laughing stock of the NFL world. But you know what? There was good football in Washington. There were some true stars in Washington. Cam Curl, who would have thought he came out of
nowhere?
Yeah, 7th rounder. I mean, nobody thought. And I got his father in an interview. And of course, his father, Greg, told me, Kelsey, he's going to be great, right? I don't believe it, but he was great. I mean, he was great, right? Like, I mean, he was the real deal. And it was so many people kind of stepping up to that next plate. Again, I talked about Taylor Heineke and what he did. Even again, Alex Smith gave his all when he could, right? And just what he went through was just truly remarkable and incredible. So I feel like the Washington football team was like that team that a movie is going to have to be written about in the future, just because it was that crazy. Like, no one could have predicted what happened in Washington. But I think the only person I think who knew what was going to happen was Ron Rivera, right? He knew he had dogs on that football team. He knew he would bring them together through the adversity. He protected that team, yeah. And then what Ron Rivera went through last season. I mean, let's not also forget that, right? Battling cancer. I mean, like, that's what literally everything that you could throw at this football team and everything that you would think would bring them down, I think in actuality kind of brought them closer together. And the football team was very, 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 very good last football season. I think that's why now expectations are even higher for them to hopefully finish what they started.
I think so too. Like I said, I just throwing it back to, I know you were talking about that Bucks game. Like, I don't know, my lady stopped me so many times between just punching a hole in the wall. Like, who in the hell is this guy? Like, Taylor Heineke, really? Like, you just gonna let this guy just
say his last name? They're like, wait, and who is this guy?
Like, who in the hell is this guy? Just running all over the field, making plays. I think he dived out of bounds, and I saw Chase Young like point to the back of his jersey or something like that. Like, it's crazy to me. But the fact that they hung in there. I mean, like I said, I don't know if you watched the show in previous shows. I was telling people, I mean, the Washington football team is for real. Like, if there's anybody that scares me as a Bucs fan, it's the Washington football team, it's the Rams, and they're high on that list. So, but Jay, man, I know you wanted to ask a question, man. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so a big one. All right, so I know you cover a lot of sport. Well, this basically the whole area, what it sounds like to me. So that you being a DMV woman, how is it when I guess you're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, right? Because we all know there's an insider if you're not from the area, but Baltimore is not part of the DMV.
It's true. People from the area know. People outside of this area don't know.
Right. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting. So I want to know like your insight on that.
Of course. So I will tell you, and people say this also. So I tell people I supported the Washington football team growing up, but I'm a Maryland girl, right? I mean, crab cakes and football, that's what Maryland does. So I grew up a Ravens fan, and I'll tell you, my favorite player in the whole entire world is Ed Reed. And Ed Reed, I got to get him on my show. I mean, I love Ed Reed. I grew up with Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, that Baltimore defense, and I remember their Super Bowl in New Orleans that they won, of course, against Colin Kaepernick. And then that first Super Bowl, that 2000 Ravens defense. So I grew up a Ravens fan. And, and growing up too, I'll tell you. So, and people know this about me. So I grew up, my family, my dad is a very like encyclopedia for sport. Right? Growing up too, even though Doug Williams, who of course went to Grambling State, and my dad went to Grambling State, played for the Washington football team. The Washington football team was the last team to integrate in the National Football League. And so and I don't know if people know this history about DC, but that's why you have a lot of Cowboy fans in DC because of that integration thing with the Washington football team, right? So
did not know that.
Yeah, look, I can educate sometimes in school people. So yeah,
okay.
I grew up with the Ravens. Been there since the beginning of the Ravens. I used to go to their training camp in Westminster when they used to do it out there. And again, so yeah, I love purple. I love the Ravens, but it makes me unbiased covering the Washington football team. Again, never had hate or ill towards them, always supported them. And of course, because they're in two different divisions, it made it even easier to have that. So I tell people, I'm like, Montgomery County is in Maryland, even though there's a lot of football fans there. But it's funny, like you said, that Baltimore, it's like people in Maryland, like there's more Washington, like literally Baltimore Ravens fans are like in Baltimore and other places because all other parts of Maryland, and you guys probably know this is like Washington football team country. It's crazy because you would think, I mean, that's why Baltimore Ravens are technically considered a smaller market because it's Baltimore. It's Baltimore. Yeah. Right? The 410 area code, right? And then you have the 301 and everybody else, with the football team. So it's very interesting. But again, I was born in Maryland. The Ravens are in Maryland. So born in purple and black since birth.
And yeah, thank you for clearing that up for us.
Of
So
course.
I was going to ask you, so let's talk a little bit more Washington football. So they made some key additions. So I'm looking at some stuff right now on the offensive side. They picked up Curtis Samuel, who's a huge, nice receiver for the Panthers. Yeah. William Jackson, cornerback. Fitzpatrick. Adam Humphries, who's a nice slot. Taylor Larson, who's a center. Lamar Miller, who's an under-the-radar veteran running back pickup. And I think they got Charles Lionel from the Bears or something like that. Yeah. It's just so much. So tell us about, some of these moves. What are some of your favorite moves, and what are they looking to build in Washington?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I'll tell you, I love that you started with the offensive side of the football because, again, a lot of people have been talking about defense in Washington. Yeah. Let's start with the quarterback position. Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you don't have a general on the football field, you're not going anywhere, all right? No so I think Ryan Fitzpatrick was such a great pickup. Remember, we went through a quarterback cycle last year. We just didn't know who was going to be the starting quarterback. So I think to be pretty sure in it, and I think especially Ryan Fitzpatrick, having someone that's been through adversity, has been through challenges, but has also found and proven to be successful, I think is going to be great for this Washington football team. Because remember, a lot of these guys are young. I have to remind myself that, you all, when I'm doing interviews with them, I'm like, oh my God. And I don't think I'm that old yet, but I'm like, babies. And it's so funny. So I do interviews with them. Like they'll hit me to new music and stuff like that. That's when you know you're getting old too, when you're not hip to all the new artists, but they're young. And to have somebody that's a veteran like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and all the players have complimented him, talked about his mentoring skills and just different things that he's done. That's important. He's been seen talking to the receivers, letting them know about, where best to go when they're running their routes and things like that. You need that veteran leadership. And I think that's something that the Washington football team has yearned for. And so again, to have somebody like Ryan Fitzpatrick, I literally think that was a perfect fit for what they need at this time now. You talked about Curtis Samuel. We need to open up the football field, right? We need targets for Ryan Fitzpatrick, because why have a good quarterback if he can't get the football down the field, right? And the Washington football team, that's how you create space. So I think he's going to be phenomenal. We have Scary Terry, our captain Terry, on the other side too. So I think I love the wide receiving core. You talked about Adam Humphries. He's had time with Ryan Fitzpatrick already because they've played together. And
Tampa.
Yep, as a Tampa fan. So, and especially when you have somebody with experience, just think about it. They already kind of meshed. And when those two have played together, and again, I know you know this as a Tampa fan, but they were really good together, right? They were really good together. And so to have them in Washington, I think is going to be really, really special. So I think offensive-wise, I'm very excited. Of course, the defensive moves that they've made too, I think are very huge. I'm so glad that you also brought up Lamar Miller. I talked with him last season. He went under the radar last season because he got signed late. But I don't think people realize that we had him on. But again, just it's solid additions and solid pieces. Yeah. So now I think we're not only talking about defense in Washington, but now Washington on the offensive side of the football, I think we can do damage, which of course will hopefully give our defense rest to continue to be great, right? You can't keep your defense on that football field because they're going to get tired. And last season, the defense did a great job of creating turnovers and forcing stops. But again, I think with these offensive pieces that they've made, and it's been interesting because I feel like people aren't talking about Washington in terms of making some of the best offseason moves, but they filled a lot of the gaps. I think they really did fill a lot of the gaps that they needed. And I feel like they need to give props for that. Because, again, Ryan Fitzpatrick coming to Washington, I would be happy if I were him. When I look at all the moves that we made, I'm like, all right, like they actually are looking out for for me, right? And they actually see and care about, what I want to do on the football field. So I'm excited for it. I think training camp is going to be interesting, right, to see who wins some of these battles. I think the offensive line adjustments that they've made too are very key and very important, because why have a good quarterback if I'm only going to be on my back the whole game, right? So I think that's very, also very important. So again, I think this is why we're excited in Washington. I think this is why so many fans are going to try to go out to Richmond for training camp, because they really see we have the key pieces needed that if they all work, it's going to be something special this football season.
I think so too, man. Like I said, they had a very under the radar offseason. Just the fact that you brought in William Jackson. I mean, a lot of people might not know William Jackson. He's a all-pro corner from Cincinnati. People just don't know him because he plays in Cincinnati. And then they brought back Kyle. Was it Kendall Fuller? Or Kyle Fuller, the cornerback?
Right. And then that's something that's important, I think, to talk about. So if we do talk about maybe the one kind of weakness with our defense, you probably do have to look at that secondary, right? Yeah. It wasn't the front line that you were worried about. If anything, so I think, like you said, those adjustments and making that secondary stronger, again, you're only beefing up this football team for more and for better. Because when you have pressure coming, but you're also taking away the receivers at the back end, then you have a defense that can make stops and hopefully be 3 and out, and the offense is off the field. And then what is the offense doing? They're smiling because they've got time to work with and they can get down that football field.
I agree. So tell us a little bit. I wanted to ask you, what about Landon Collins? Landon Collins, is he's still on the team, right? I just wanted to make sure.
He is. Yeah, so, he is still on the
team. Man, like I said, I don't know. He got paid a boatload of money. They were expecting a lot out of him. He has not looked good, in my opinion. But like I said, I take that. I'll take a back seat. In your opinion, I mean, tell us a little bit about Landon Collins. I know a lot of Redskins, Washington fans that were expecting a lot more from him. They were kind of expecting him to really step up to the plate, but maybe it's a new system, new scheme, COVID. But just tell us a little bit about Landon Collins and what you think his struggles are.
Yeah, so I mean, we all know Landon Collins. I mean, is a name that if you're a football fan, you should know, right? 3-time All-Pro, accolades speak for itself. But right, with the new team and the adjustments that have to be made, and then the injury that he's now coming off, an Achilles injury at that, you just have to see how he bounces back. And it's a name I mentioned earlier in the show now that some people are looking to go at for training camp, and that's Cameron Curl. And talk about, again, someone who was able to step up. And of course, I think Cameron Curl's only going to get better. I think that's one of the matchups that people are looking at. He was special as a rookie. He was only a rookie last season. So just think about that. And I remember when he got the touchdown in the end zone. And you guys remember when he flipped into the end zone?
Yeah.
I mean, he's confident. He's doing it.
I love it. Yeah.
And so I think Washington has a question to ask though now, right? So what do you do with Landon Collins if Cam Curl is emerging and budding? And so I know Cameron Curl has been playing at some different positions like the nickel and some other things, because I think they're trying to work Landon Collins in. Right, because I think we know he's special. Give him a chance and let's see what he can do. Because again, I feel like you usually can't go wrong with veteran leadership, and that's what Landon Collins is. But he's going to have to work for it. It's not just going to be given to him, and I think he knows that, right? I mean, not only from coach, but from fans and everybody else. Because if you can't do the job, there is somebody else that probably can. And again, somebody that was so special. I mean, we have high expectations. I think he knows that. I think he's had a great offseason, trying to get back in shape, trying to, of course, come back from that injury. I think only time will tell. But again, anytime a player is coming back from an injury, especially a big injury, we just don't know, right? We just don't know because, look, our bodies are all different. It matters your recovery time and just what you're doing with your doctor, your health, your diet, and so much more. But I do think he's going to be one that we're going to just be closely keeping an eye on to see what Washington does with him.
Okay. All right, Z. Do you have something?
So from our Charge It to the Game Facebook group, we have a question from Jonathan Michael asking, what do you feel the long-term plan at quarterback is for the Washington football team?
Good question.
It's a great question. And look, Ryan Fitzpatrick is older, right? I mean, he's been in the league a long time. And so I do think he was probably more of a right now option, which is nothing wrong with, right? Like, again, I'll give a real life example. Sometimes you might be dating for the right now. You might not be thinking about marriage and babies and everything else, right? So he's the right now. He looks good to us. And he's proven. So I think long term, I think the Washington football team, they tried to go long term when they drafted Dwayne Haskins, right? He was supposed to be the face of the football franchise, the franchise quarterback. Of course, i.e., we all know what happened, and I do wish him the best of luck in Pittsburgh. Again, you guys know I'm from Montgomery County, so in my eyes, Dwayne cannot only do no
I do too.
But after that happened, And so we're like back to the drawing board. And let's be honest, Washington, throughout our franchise history, especially in the more latter history, we've been through our quarterbacks. At one time we thought we were riding with Kirk and liking that. And now Kirk is in Minnesota, and I guess we're not liking that. And so many different things that we've been through. And so quarterback has it's always been either the one that's got away or the one that we didn't want. And so I think long term, will Washington be confident enough to look at the upcoming drafts and draft a quarterback of the future? We want to see what happens with Justin Fields and Trey Lance, their teams, respective teams. Is a young quarterback the way to go? Is college adequately preparing these guys for the next level? Are they able to find a jewel in the rough? Like Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, who were not as high on boards, but of course, i.e., we've seen what their futures have been in the National Football League. Or do you try to bring in somebody else, right, that's played in the league a bit and give them a chance in Washington? I really do think for a quarterback in the future, they will go through the draft. But I think in the short term, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think he'll be auditioning, right, to keep his spot long term in Washington. But I do think with Ron Rivera and I think the coaching staff, I think they're just planning for right now, because it's a young team. And I think if they do draft a quarterback, it's going to have to be just someone that's proven. Because I think Dwayne Haskins kind of left a bad taste in our mouths when it comes to drafting a quarterback.
Very bad taste,
just because it just didn't work out, right? And it just didn't, and it hurt us. It hurt us in the way the relationship ended. I think it hurt us because we all saw that last year. So, I think long term, I think time will tell. But again, if I were a fan, I'd be looking at college football, especially this season. And, we're especially looking at the SEC this season, since we might have some new teams there, but just seeing who might be that quarterback of the future for Washington. But otherwise, look at these, younger quarterbacks in the league that aren't starting. And Ron Rivera is somebody that's not afraid to go grab a young quarterback and bring them here to Washington to learn the system, right? I think Kyle Allen is a perfect example of that. So it'll be interesting. But I think, right now, focus with Ryan Fitzpatrick, because I think, he's been somebody that's been an underdog for a while. I think he's looking to prove himself. And when somebody has something to prove, I think it's special. I really do. I think it's going to be special. So I think long term, I don't know yet who I like right now for long term in Washington. But I really do believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's been a journeyman, but I think he's a man that's going to lead us on the right journey this season.
Beautiful. Okay. Washington fans. All right.
There you go.
Yep. And to keep it in the Charge to the Game group, Kelsey, I have a friend of mine. His name is Ricky Williams, longtime friend of mine. Grew up together.
Yeah. And he's a football name, Ricky Williams. He's got the football name.
Just like the running back. You know what I mean? But he had a question. So he's asking, are they anywhere closer to like the logo and the name change? At all, like he just wants to know. He doesn't want to buy all this Washington football team gear. Are they going to be the Renegades? Are they going to be the Washington Helicopters? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is a great question. This is the question I get all the time.
Yeah.
I think people think I work for the team and they assume that I have the answer. I'm not even in that process. But what I do know is that they actually are going through all of the fan submissions and then the legal side of it. You guys know trademarking and all that other stuff. So Jason Wright has said 2022. So my eyes will be like everybody else's eyes on 2022 when they will pick their name. Again, I wish I had like some insight. If anything, the advice that I've been giving is I just hope it pays tribute to DC. I loved how our G League team named themselves the Go-Go because it pays tribute, of course, to our music scene here in DC. So I hope whatever the name is, it pays tribute. I'm talking about old DC. I hope it pays tribute to the DC culture here and the people that have been here, the DC natives. And it's something that the people that have loved this team die hard can be proud of. But you know what? Even if it stays Washington football team, I won't be mad at it. I'm mad at it because I'm somebody, I care more about winning and creating my identity on the football field than the team name. And look, our burgundy and gold is still the same. So honestly, whichever way they go, I will be completely fine with. Again, I just more so care about winning. Other teams can care about a name, but if you have a good name and not winning, who cares?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Hey, they might stay the Washington football team forever. If they keep winning, you never know.
Look.
Yeah.
Like, guys, I wish I had more insight, but yes, I am literally just like everybody else, just trying to wait and see too. So I will have my calendar on 2022 and I can't wait to hear the name change.
Okay. So I want to ask you, so how good is this defensive line and Chase Young? Like I was looking at Pro Football Focus, they put out an article. They had the Pittsburgh Steelers ranked as the number one defensive line with Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and of course TJ Watt. And then I think second was I forgot who they said second. The Bucks were third. Washington was second. They were second. Do you think they're better than Pittsburgh? Yeah. Like, what is your opinion on that? Like, Pro Football Focus just putting them second. Like, me on paper, I think Washington I think Washington's first with the lineup of Cameron Payne. I'm not Cameron Payne, but Payne, Allen, Ioannidis, Sweat, all of those guys.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
For me, football focus, I mean, let's be honest. When you talk about, especially in the AFC and especially that AFC North division, football comes to mind. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are usually always there because usually their defense is pretty solid. And so I think, there's history there and a past there where, again, Washington's new blooming defense, we're still getting used to talking about really good defense in Washington. And so I won't take a stab at Pro Football Focus, but it's interesting, like you said, because many are putting Washington's D-line atop the rest because of the names that you just said, and it's led by our reigning defensive rookie of the year in Chase Young, our PG County guy, our Maryland guy. I had to put that in there.
Yes, ma'am.
Ohio State.
I'll give you that. Even though you're talking to a Maryland grad, that's the one time. Yes, Ohio State.
Watch yourself, Z. Watch yourself now.
But no, I think the defensive line, and you'll listen to this, talking to quarterbacks around the league, both former and current quarterbacks, I will tell you what I'm hearing is people are really preparing for Washington's defense. All right. They're preparing for Washington's defense. They're practicing getting the ball out quicker, right? They're making sure their offensive line is ready because they know the heat is coming, right? And so I think to that end, you're going to be looking at teams who are probably going to be trying to either run the ball against Washington, right? Because they're just going to try to get it away. And I think our D-line has proven that they can put a stop to that, or they're going to be trying to just do the short chucks, right? And get the ball out quickly and try to get that short yardage again and again and again. And so I think that helps Washington kind of know the game plan, right? Because they know they can bring the heat up front. But also I think that means you can be more creative when you have that luxury. Again, going back to Baltimore, something that the Ravens, I think, do so well, because people know the Ravens defense is usually really good. They have so many defensive schemes that they can do because they're just that talented, right? And they know they can bring the heat in different ways. And I think that's what Washington is getting on that level of. So I think put some respect on Washington's defensive line's name. They're coming. They're coming for you. They're one of the best pass rushing defenses in the league, right? And that's for a reason. And the numbers and stats are there, folks. We're not just pulling this out of thin air. And so I think if they're able to mesh the way that they did last season, again, Washington is going to be a team that offenses are just going to have to be really smart and plan for it because, again, they're bringing it and they want to sack. They don't want to just push you down. They want to drive you into the ground, right? They want to drive you into the ground, get that ball out, recover that football, and maybe even run it back, right? So that's the defense that Washington has. And so I think I would put them atop. But again, I'm not taking hate from the Steelers. I do think they also have a really good team. But yeah. Give us some love in Washington, Pro Football Focus.
Beautiful. Jay, you had a question?
No, I just agree. She's absolutely right. There's no reason why we should be number 2. Honestly, there's no reason why, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
they're still getting used to us. I'm telling you, they're still getting used to good defense in Washington. I think it's still, people. And let's be honest, the Washington football team for a long time wasn't on people's radars, especially in the NFC.
They're on mine. They're on mine.
And there you go. But now,
all eyes on you.
Now, look, everybody's like, where are they at on the schedule? Like, when do we play them? Because, again, they're a real threat to be contended with. I think this is why it's exciting in Washington. This is why you see people rocking the Washington football team gear. This is why we've been literally counting down every single day to training camp. Because we know football is finally here. And lo and behold, if COVID does not ruin it for us, I do think Washington can be just really special.
I think so, too. So let's just talk a little bit about this upcoming season. But actually, before then, let's talk about the division. What is your outlook on them in the division? Of course, you got the Giants coming back with Daniel Jones, and Saquon Barkley's coming back from the injury. We're going to see what he's going to do. And then you got Dallas with Dak Prescott and the injury, and Zeke. And then Eagles. I mean, I don't want to throw shade at the Eagles. I don't want to get beat up either. But I mean, hey, tell us a little bit about how Washington fares in the division. Me on paper, I'll put them at the top of the division. But like I said, we're big betting guys. I'm looking at some of the analytics and stuff they're putting out. They have Dallas
They do.
ahead to win the division. Like, where does that come from?
Dak. People love Dak. They've got Hard Knocks. And I was just in Dallas, and I will tell you all, a lot of people are just assuming that Dak Prescott is just going to be completely 100% and look as he looked before he got injured. And before he got injured, let's be honest, Dak is a great quarterback, not taking anything away from him. But I do still have Washington at the top of the list. Look, they can definitely win it again. I think, Philly last year, I thought it was their division to lose, and they just went through a lot of turmoil last season. I'm rooting for Jalen Hurts. I like the guy, but it's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I've covered Joe Flacco a lot. Of course, when he was in Baltimore, and now he's with the Eagles
nice.
As a backup. And I just think, and Joe Flacco is not. I mean, he's not the same, right? He's not the same cool Joe. He's not that quarterback winning MVP Joe Flacco. So I think quarterback wise, the Eagles are kind of up in the air. And if you don't have, if the quarterback position again isn't solid, it's going to be really hard on your offense to really make plays, and then your defense is going to be playing a lot. So I think the Eagles again are just going to have their hands full. I think with the Giants, it's going to be more the same. Saquon, of course, is always exciting, but need to see how he comes back. But you need multiple weapons, and I'm not just fully sold on the Giants. I do think it will be a race between Washington and the Cowboys, and it's only right in rivalry fashion that it's a rivalry between Washington and the Cowboys, right, for that top spot. But I think I want to see what happens with Dallas. Again, I'm not just writing them up just because Dak is back. They have, offensive-wise, their offensive line has to remain strong and healthy to protect Dak, because Dak is great, but he needs time to throw the football, right? So there's just different pieces. Their defense, can it be solid? Can their receivers come up and catch the football and make the big plays? There's questions. There are questions. And so, again, I personally have watched it. It's this year it's Washington's division to lose, because I think, again, they have all the pieces. Now we have somebody really solid and sure at quarterback. I don't think there's as many questions going into the season. And now the team has really meshed together with these young players and the veterans. So I think it's a special bond they have in Washington. So it's going to be hard for a team to break that. So I think in the division, we're still riding high.
Oh, yeah. Definitely riding high. Like I said, I have my eyes on Washington. Like I said, I just think that they're a problem. I've seen them firsthand. Like I said, that defensive line, and then Ron Rivera, he's brought a whole new culture, like just a different voice. Like just Ron, he's just an incredible coach. Like I think a lot of people don't understand what a coach is and supposed to bring to an organization, and he's brought it.
I agree. I was just going to say, because I think, our last kind of like loved coach, and you all know this, was Joe Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
And, I talked to Joe Gibbs when I worked with NASCAR. Of course, he's now with NASCAR and, more in his second love in life. And we haven't loved a coach like that, I don't think, in Washington. But I think Ron Rivera is on track because people love them. So Ron Rivera, I think, I think he's going to be here a long time in Washington. I think people respect the culture change that was needed in Washington that he's brought. And I think a lot of people at first had questions about the game plan, but now they're sold on the game plan and they see it's working under him. And again, to go through what he went through, and when you hear about what he was doing between treatments and coaching the team, like he really gave his all and really inspired this team. A lot of those games were played for Ron. And when you love your coach like that, it's special. It's special. I think Ron knows that. So I think, again, we're strong up top and the team is strong. So again, it's going to be hard for teams to kind of break that mold that we have in Washington. I think now when people see Washington on the schedule, especially with Ron Rivera at the helm again, it's not, they're not able to say, oh, that's going to be an easy win. No, not at all. That's going to be a hard one. Hopefully gritty win for Washington. But, they're really looking at that schedule differently when they see the Washington football team now. Yep,
I agree. And actually, speaking of the schedule, tell us some games this upcoming year that you're really looking forward to. So just for me, I'm a Bucks fan. We play you guys in Washington. I will be there.
Are you nervous about the game now? Are you nervous about the game?
Me? I just don't want to lose. I just, like I said, I live in Maryland. So just hearing those guys, oh, we beat you, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? I want to see Tom. I know it's going to be a hard-fought game. A lot of people are down on Fitzpatrick. I don't know why. Like I said, this might be for maybe the casual fan. Yeah. I just know what he can do when given the opportunity. And the thing is, he's not going to have to do that much. I mean, this is a team who has Lamar Miller in the backfield. They have Antonio Gibson, who's an exciting coming into his second year. He's a monster. Yeah, you got him, and then on a short up offensive line, and he has the offensive weapons and firing power and weaponry of Terry McLaurin. Yeah. Samuel, and then even a tight end. I forgot his name. Was it
Logan Thomas?
Yeah, Logan Thomas. Like he even stepped up in a big way. So for me, I mean, obviously I'm a Bucks fan. I think we win, but I think it's going to be tough. And then I'm not 100% sold on our secondary. Like I like Carlton Davis. He's solid. If I had to pick one guy on that defense that I'm not really sure about, it's him. Even though he did have 8 picks, I just do not think he fares well against the smaller, faster, the number one, receiving threats. I think he kind of gets exposed. But to answer your question, I am a little nervous. Like I said, I just don't want to lose because I just don't want to be the laughing stock, and I want to continue to talk my trash as a Bucks fan. So,
of course. Yeah, look, we got tired of seeing those rings on our timeline all across the country. But, what Tampa Bay did, of course, not taking anything away from TB12 and that team. I think as far as football games, of course, you love the rivalry games. I think I'm also excited. I'm excited for the Packers game, but that's if
really?
Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And look, talk about what an interesting time it must be to cover a football team. Well, they must be very interested in Green Bay because there's a lot of questions happening. I think I'm also excited. You have to be happy to see Patrick Mahomes because then you're really playing the top of the top of the top of the top of the top, right, with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's going to be one to definitely keep an eye on. Patrick, think about it. I think he's still hurting from the Super Bowl loss, right, that the Chiefs thought, it was a game that just didn't pan out for them, right? And I think Patrick Mahomes is looking to bounce back. So I think that one will be interesting. I think the Saints will also be a new look Saints, a Drew Brees-less Saints will be also interesting for Washington to play. So, I work for a team, so I think every game's exciting, but I think those are the teams that, when they come, you're playing some top-tier talent. And again, I'm just honestly curious, especially to see the Saints and how they look, again, without Drew Brees. So many changes, right?
Oh, I hate the Saints. Oh my gosh, I hate them so bad. Like I said, I'm a Bucs fan. Like I'm telling you, I went to the Bucs game actually, the playoff game when they played Drew Brees' last game in New Orleans. Sitting there yelling my little heart out. It was just incredible. Just seeing them on the road. They lost to the Saints twice during the regular season. Saints fans talking all this trash, and then the Bucs come back and just stomp on their neck in the playoff. It was beautiful to me. So
yeah, it'll be just very, very interesting. But I think the Cowboys too, especially since they got Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
real interesting with the Dallas Cowboys. But of course, that rivalry game is one we always look forward to here in Washington. And people, Jerry Jones, again, it's just be fun and interesting. I think there's a lot of good games on their slate. I think Washington has kind of more of a difficult schedule, but again, I think they're a great team that will be tested. They're a great team that will be tested, and I think we'll get to see just how great they are.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, Washington fans, you hear it, man. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what do you got coming up this upcoming year for the Washington football team? What other shows we're going to see you on? Like I said, we see you many places. So where can we find you and where we're going to see you at?
Of course. So I will tell you one of my most exciting shows I have coming up will be August 5th, which will be before the Hall of Fame game. I have two dads coming on the show, one from the Pittsburgh Steelers and one from the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
And so
Where's Bucks?
Washington fans might not like me as much because I have a Cowboys fan on, but look, hey, it's for the one. So I have Stacey Elliott joining me, who, of course, as you guys can probably guess by now, is the father of Ezekiel Elliott. So super excited to have him on. And then I have Sean Allen on. He is the father of Marcus Allen, Pittsburgh Steelers. And Marcus Allen, DMV fans, is from right here in the area. So I'm super excited to have both of them on August 5th, 6 p.m. And that's on my show, Listen In with KNN. So super excited. I hope everyone puts that down on their calendars because it's going to be just so much fun. So first we'll talk about their sons, what it was like raising their sons. I think that's always an interesting perspective. Like one of my favorite interviews was having Chase Young's dad on the show. And I think they're the Washington football team too. I think I love my shows because I get to talk to their families. Like I remember interviewing Jimmy Moreland's parents and, you talk about what I have coming up. But I'll never forget, they said when Jimmy made his first career interception that they screamed so loud that their neighbors called the police on them because they didn't know what was going on. Lo and behold, Jimmy's mom was a police officer. So it was her colleagues coming. She's like, "What's going on? Called on you?" And we were just so excited. And that's what I love, right? That's what I love about the job and the shows that I do. So of course, The Life and the Fit, Washington Football Unfiltered. I hope everyone checks those out. I think, as you all know, I just get a chance to talk to the players outside of football, which I think is kind of cool because we always get to see them on the football field, but truly, who are they? How are they more than just athletes? What are their cares? What are their concerns? And it's important. So it's great. Like for instance, talking about Jimmy Moreland, hearing about his community service work here in the DMV area with Daron Payne. They were doing charity event back before last season in the off season. And the Washington community talked about just how special it was to have him there. And it was in Ward 8, so Southeast DC. And they said they hadn't seen a Washington football team player there since Darryl Green. In this part of South.
Really?
Think about that. If you know football, and in this part of DC,
that's a long time.
Darryl Green. All right. So just think about that's special though to hear that, because I mean you get to see the joy in their hearts, right? I think these guys too, for them, sometimes I think they forget like how just special they are, like other people, right? Because to them they're normal guys, and they are, right? But I mean, I love that aspect of it, and of course, I mean they are more than football players, and of course, giving back to community is something that I preach all the time. So super excited about just kind of digging more into their lives, meeting the new faces. It's always great to meet the rookies. Like I've had all the rookies on last season. It was so funny. Like Cam Curl I had on when he first came, and his dad embarrassed him. It was so funny. His dad's like, Cam Curl doesn't eat seafood. I'm like, well, like who doesn't like seafood? Does he know he's coming to the area? Like, Maryland's right here. Like, we love seafood. And he was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how he described it, but he was like, because the shrimp, what was it, like the poop part of the shrimp is on it or something like that. And I was like, what?
Like you gotta eat that, man. Hey.
It was kind of cool getting that insight, getting to know Lamar in Miami, and just talk about, what it meant to, play at the U, right? I mean, it's just special. And I think that's why I love it. On my show, the same thing. And actually Thursday, if people want to check it out, I have former NBA player Tyrone Nesby joining me on the show. So super excited to have him. That's Thursday at 6 p.m. So talking about the Wizards, we'll talk about the Wizards, playing with NBA, and so much more. So basically, I have a lot going on. Everyone needs to check out the shows. Just follow me on social media, The Real K Nelson, and my website is KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Also on Facebook at Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Reach out, talk sports with me. Just again, love doing this, and just have a lot of great guests joining me. I also have a lot of Olympians joining me on the show. So soon I actually have a USA rugby player coming on that I will debut this week. I just had Donovan Bailey on the show. Of course, he won for Canada and was like the Usain Bolt before Usain Bolt. Had Colin Jackson on, another former Olympian. So just a lot going on, doing Olympic stuff, football stuff. So it's a busy time. This is why I didn't even bother straightening my hair today. Just a lot going on. So it just is what it is.
Beautiful. I love it, man.
But yes, thanks so much to you all for having me. And again, I hope you all follow this entire season. Just lots coming up, and not slowing down.
Okay, no problem. So my last two questions were, who are, in your opinion, who is the best player in the NFL? Just regardless of position, who is the best player? You know what I mean?
Ooh, the best player. All right.
Just regardless of position, taking all your football knowledge into account.
Yeah.
Who is the best player in the NFL? Just in your opinion.
All right. So this is a tough one because, of course, I think people have Tom Brady in mind because he's done what he's done.
Right.
But Tom Brady's older, and he's not the same Tom Brady. I like Aaron Donald a lot.
He's the best. Okay.
But I also like Patrick Mahomes and what he's done. I have to be honest with you, too. I like the way Lamar Jackson has changed the quarterback position. Okay. But I think I'm going to go with Aaron Donald right now. But those we're close. Close.
We got another one, Rome. We got another one.
Hey, I'm just throwing it out there. We had a huge debate a few shows ago. It was T.J. Watt versus Aaron Donald. Defensive Player of the Year debate, and it was just huge. But like I said, it's just incredible to me, just what he does at the defensive line position. Yeah. I think a lot of people, just maybe casual fans, just don't know how great he is. But like I said, he's special.
And remember just his size and what he's been able to do at that size that he is. I think it's just very special. So I think, Aaron Donald, just keep playing lights out. I had a chance to meet him at the Super Bowl in Miami, just a great guy all around. So yeah, I think right now, it's hard to talk, but hey, this is why we love football season, because a new star emerges every season.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Kelsey. So, hey, everybody, that wraps up our show. Kelsey Nicole Nelson, the Washington football team. Check out our show. Follow on social media. For me, I'm your host, Rome, Big Z and J. We out.